Hey guys and girls, on this video I return to Paper Girls, so this is going to be my reviews of Paper Girls episode 5, which is called A New Period, and episode 6, which is called Marantine. So full spoilers from the start of the reviews as always. And yeah, two really enjoyable episodes, really solid, a lot of good character stuff. In fact, most of them are made up of really a lot of character moments and beats. There's not a lot of actual plot developments, although there are at the start of episode 5. You get most of the big plot sort of moments, and then it does actually slow down. Episode 5 is a bit funny like that, but it's all very well done. I'm really enjoying this series. Maybe at times that they linger a bit too long. It feels like maybe some scenes are taking a bit too long. Maybe just that thing of wanting to adapt the comic books faithfully, so maybe they left in as much as possible. But overall, I'm not really complaining because what we got was pretty much all great. You know, there's some great character drama in these two episodes. So the first episode is more of a KJ centric episode, and the second episode is more of a Tiffany episode, so I'll get to that. Easy to talk about them really together once again. But so the big stuff that happens at the start of the first episode is, and obviously they arrive in the robot. They think at the time back in 1988, and the robot sort of crash lands, it crashes, it's sort of all spun out. And yeah, they're confronted with the old watch who come through the porthole in their own robot, or it's like their version of the robot. Like the old watch isn't like in it, but it's essentially their own version of the robot. And Larry's acting all crazy and frantic, and he tells them all to get in the house, which they do, and they're watching from the window as this unfolds, and Larry's killed. He's killed by the laser. But then we get a big character moment for adult Erin, because she takes it, then it's her responsibility to save them. And obviously her younger self doesn't want her to go. She's very emotional. But she does. She says to younger self, look after them. I've got to do this. Don't worry, I'll save. And obviously she sort of assures her nothing's going to happen to her without being able to guarantee that. But that's what we get. We get like her sacrificing herself. And once again, there's something so beautiful about that. How, you know, looking back on her past self, maybe she hasn't led the life she quite wanted to lead, but now she has this opportunity to really do something and sacrifice herself and put herself out there for this group of teens. And it's just this nice idea of sacrificing yourself so the future can sort of look a bit more rosy type thing. So she goes out there, she goes in the robot, and obviously she tries to get it up and running, and wow, it goes full blown B-movie. We get like a robot standoff, but because Erin's robot isn't like totally functional and has malfunctioned, then she's in trouble, and in the end she actually takes herself out because she realizes she's not going to win this battle. You also get the speech during the battle, which we've heard from Erin, which is, you know, I'm gonna it's something like, I'm gonna emotionally be okay, I'm gonna win in life. And it's the speech we've heard her say in previous scenes. But she obviously realises like she can't win this battle, and she takes herself out. There's like a button in the robot that self-destructs, and that's it. And just the fallout of this, and the way Erin reacts watching out the window, and how she can barely move for like what feels like a good few minutes as KJ consoles her is just fantastic stuff. And that's it. I mean, they just stay in the house for ages until we see like the Parks and Recreation Feinstein guy. He comes through along with the sort of soldier that we've seen regularly, and Tiffany wants to go and get the pack with the book in because she still very much is thinking about we can change the future. And obviously the others say no, it's too risky, but she sneaks out there. She overhears like their conversation, and there's some stuff about how one of them, the woman, has obviously lost someone in the war, and she's actually eager to stop the war, but the other guy says no, sorry, we can't do that. And so it adds a little bit of like light and shade to them as a group. But Tiffany, when the coast is clear, she does get the backpack with the book and like runs back, and then they start doing the mind warp thing, which Larry told her about. And so they're mind warping the whole area so anyone around won't remember. And Tiffany says to them, this is it. They're going to wipe our mind. Larry told me about that. But of course, for the sake of the drama, it doesn't work. They don't have their minds wipe. And they go on and they start walking around town. And there's talking about their plans. And Tiffany still wants to change the future. That's like her plan. And the others just aren't up for that. You know, they're done. There's a sort of a funny line from KJ about, yeah, screw it, I'm not even going to continue my paper round. And Max says, yeah, I think you have a plan. But then the big twist in the tale is they realise they've not gone back to 1988. They've gone back to 99. Because at one point they see like 4th of July like posters and flags up, and it turns out it's the night before 4th of July 1999, and they start questioning how this could have happened, and of course the blame goes to Larry, and Tiffany, you know, gets sort of confused by this and how could it be? And KJ actually has the idea, then how about this? How about Larry lied? Because he's the one who wanted to go back to 99, not us. So he just tricked us. And obviously this throws more shade on Larry. So I'm slightly vindicated because I said in my last video, can Larry be trusted? Now, one thing I thought was hard to watch in the episode, and it sort of continues into the next episode, is then from then on the group are really like aggressive towards Tiffany and sort of down on her and blame her and everything because she trusted Larry, but really it was Larry who lied and, you know, duped them. So they were obviously happy to take the chance to like escape. So it's sort of hard to watch, really, the way they are towards Tiffany for the episode. It seems really harsh. But anyway, as things move on, KJ, they obviously need a place to stay, and they have the idea of dropping by KJ's because, yeah. And they're having, like, I'm assuming what's meant to be a 4th of July party. And obviously she comes from a rich family, and they're having this fancy sort of party, which is all very awkward and cringe. And at first the other three go in, but KJ doesn't, I should say, because there's obviously the risk of her future self seeing herself, and that would sort of blow things. But of course, the way the plot's going to go is curiosity gets the better of her, and she goes in, and we just have some fun sequences around the house. We see Mac, who of course is from the other end of the track and not used to such extravagancies, just enjoying and lapping up this crazy rich food. There's some really, really awkward sort of moments. When KJ first sees herself, she sees her with it's with a guy who seems to be like flirting with her, and like his mother's there and trying to push like him towards KJ. And we find out KJ lives in New York, like she studies in New York, and obviously like younger KJ is watching all this. But what I really like about this episode and what it does with KJ is she goes up later on, like, just to use the bathroom, and this is all, like, really well observed, where she's wandering around, seeing all these posters, seeing pictures of herself and her family, and she sees, like, movies posters on her bedroom wall, and she bumps into someone in her room, and we find out it's Lauren, this friend of KJ's, who goes to film school with her in New York, and there's a surprise there. Oh, really? I thought she would have gone to business school. And Lauren's like, yeah, that's what the parents would have wanted, but no, KJ has her heart set on being a filmmaker. And there's this whole sort of thing where you've got all these movie posters on her wall, but the point is made then, or hinted at least, and they're movies all made by men, and certainly at this point so many of the famous movies are like male produced from the male perspective. So once again, that's something this show and this story is focusing on, that sort of imbalance really in the film industry, which still exists today. It's obviously better today, but it still exists, and how KJ has this ambition to change all that, and Lauren talks to her or to the younger one, and like invites her to like a Kubrick screening, because they're going to the local art house cinema tomorrow for a Kubrick screening. Like, it's a whole day of his films, but like 2001 in particular, and obviously KJ's kind of like, oh, I have to check with my parents, and she doesn't intend to go because she doesn't want to bump into like future self. But the other big thing about the scene is that she sees her future self then kiss Lauren later on. Like, she goes off to the bathroom and watches them through the door, and they start kissing. So it's revealed, and as I suspected in the last review, she is like a lesbian. And once again, it's just this clever idea of this is the way she finds out, and it kind of shocks her. It sort of like unsettles her, and she like runs out of the house, storms out of the party, and then kind of gets quite aggressive because she doesn't want to talk about it with the others, and she hits Mac out of anger when Mac gets on her case. And then Tiffany has the idea to call her future self, so she tries that. Her future self answers, and that's kind of the lead into the next episode, where it's going to be Tiffany focused. So carrying that on, they go to like this rave to meet future Tiffany. Future Tiffany is so cool. Like, even though they're the same person, but future and past, they do have this chemistry, like they are sisters. And she's just at this rave, and the episode does this interesting thing where like younger Tiffany explains to her what's going on, the whole thing about them time traveling, and older Tiffany just accepts it, like she doesn't question it. And you're watching this scene like she's at a party. I mean, is she high? Is she just not paying attention, or is there something else going on? But as things develop, it's pretty clear that no, there's nothing else going on. And she talks to Tiffany about how she studied science, and how when it comes to science, the science actually backs up that there are like wormholes and that time travel is possible. And although maybe it's a bit of a stretch for her to believe them this easily, it does sort of work when you think about the character Tiffany is, like the younger Tiffany we've seen. It does make sense that her future self would believe in this stuff. So thinking about it's not a massive problem. So anyway, they stay at Tiffany's, the four of them, and we start to see little divides, little cracks in them, and them being sort of split up. Because Mac and Erin have actually started hanging around a lot more. Like they got on really well at the party, and sort of stole some money from these rich people. But even they have like a little bit of a fight later, a little like dispute. But once again, the episode plays out really slowly, where older Tiffany helps them, and obviously younger Tiffany finds out more about her future self, finds out that she went to this really big, like tech school, and that just different stuff, that she's into science and tech, and she's also surprised and she still lives in the same area than they grew up in, this very modest area. And there's a good scene later where she finds out that she dropped out of school after a year, and hadn't really followed up on her education as of yet. And she's sort of confused, and like older Tiffany does this speech about how, it's all just the system's all screwed up and messed up, and there's limits on the education. Like when you go to a place like that where they sort of try and limit what you can do, and they want you to do everything your way, and there's a lack of like experimentation or creative stuff. So, and she just tells her then you have to create your own success, you have to be your own person. So almost like playing on that metaphor, but just then, I'm doing a startup online, and that's kind of the future, if you like. And again, this is meant to be in '99, so probably it's quite early on for that sort of idea. But she does mention the likes of Gates and Steve Jobs, so that's all good stuff. I really enjoy everything with like older and younger Tiffany in this episode. I'll say that Tiffany's boyfriend is an absolute douchebag, riding around on a skateboard, expects her to give him a lift to work every day. But we also see how coolly she like deals with him, where she's kind of like, well, I can't really take you to work today. And in the end, she drops him off at work, but only because Tiffany wants her to take her to the farm to see Larry. Like, she says that's the best way to try and get them home, to go and visit like Larry in the future. So in the end they do, but once again it's all part of her being taken aback by, okay, that's your boyfriend, and yet you're so casual with him, you're so sort of laid back and stuff, which is, hell yeah, damn right. I mean, the way clearly she doesn't like he doesn't deserve her anyway, but whatever, she's very chilled about it, which is cool. So Tiffany's, I'll say, go off to the farm to see Larry, and obviously they have to convince him that they are what they say they are. At first he doesn't quite believe. They go to the barn and the robot's not there because it hasn't been built yet, and they prove it, that they proved then they have time travelled, or at least younger Tiffany has. And that's because, she's got his book, like the exact same book, and he can see it's his handwriting. And it's a good scene, actually, because younger Tiffany, who has been taking all this shit from the others about trusting Larry and stuff, and they still blame her for what happened. She just unloads on him. She gets in his face about, this is what you did. You lied to us. You tricked us in the future, and it led to a woman being killed. And now that's why you have to fix this. It's a really good scene for the actress. The actress just lets rip, which is great. And he gives them the coordinates, and they go off, they look at the coordinates, but unfortunately the coordinates seem to figure then the next, folding won't appear till 2006, so 7 years. And it's so funny because like older Tiffany seems, okay, you can stay here for 7 years. It's like, and Erin's freaking out. It's like, no way can we stay here for 7 years. So that's that stuff. That's really good stuff. everything with the two Tiffany's I pretty much digged. So more stuff with KJ is that she goes off, like goes for a wander, and she decides to go to the cinema knowing that her future self and Lauren will be there. So she also, I'll just say at this point, Pavement song plays. Big part of my youth listening to Pavement, and it's spot on too because it's a track from Terror Twilight, which was their last album, came out in '99. So they've got the time period right. So she goes to the cinema, and it's just sort of a moment because she's experiencing 2001 for the first time, which I still maintain is overrated, but no matter what, it's an important film, obviously, and a big cultural film. So she's watching it for the first time, and it's just quite a cool scene, her watching it as she sees, her future self with Lauren in front of her watching it also. And then after the film, she actually talks to Lauren because future self has gone to the bathroom, and she just approaches Lauren and starts talking to her about the film. And she does this thing of where she appears to be asking her about how you first knew that you were gay, but she uses the film as like the metaphor. And the way it plays in the scene is that Lauren seems to know what she's talking about, but they just keep talking in like the metaphor of the film. And it's quite well done again. And it's just this thing of, it's probably a little bit cliche of like this character getting a bit like close to herself, her future self, without exactly colliding, but it's quite nice the way she does it through this other character. And Laura invites her to coffee with them, but of course KJ knows not to go that far, not to like actually like let her future self see her. So of course she says she's got to go, but one contrivance is then you would probably think that Lauren would mention it to KJ, then supposedly her cousin, because that's what she did in the previous scene at the party. In the last episode, she sort of said she was like KJ's cousin. So I don't know, you thought at some point she might have mentioned either at the party or maybe, she might have mentioned it at the cinema, I don't know, because KJ sort of leaves and then we cut to the next scene. So I guess it's possible she might have mentioned it to her after she left. I don't know. At that point, it doesn't really matter because she's gotten out of Dodge. But so what happens at the end of the episode is then KJ comes back and she like confesses, and or she talks to Mac, and she tells, because this is actually, I didn't really realise this, but the first time they've got to talk about their futures, and she just says to her about her future and how the future self is studying film in New York. She's in this happy like relationship and all this stuff, and Mac is like, well, that's good, but then she tells her about what happens to her, about how she dies age 16 from brain cancer. And it's this really sad sort of moment because, of course, thinking about it, there's nothing really Matt can do about that. Even in this show where you can change things through the future, if you're going to get brain cancer, you're going to get brain cancer. There's nothing really you can do to stop that. So there's something quite tragic about that. And they have a bit of a scene, and Max says, you can't tell the others because I don't want them reacting the same way as you are right now and making a big deal of it. And the very end of the episode, which is a nice ending, is then Larry back on the farm sees like there's another portal that opens, and through it comes the bikes, the girls' bikes, and the copy of the paper that then we saw in the first episode. So from '88 with the was it Nixon or Reagan? And anyway, the political headline with the president and the Soviets. So yeah, man, I tell you what, that's quite the ending. So just confirming to him a few things. So that's the next 2 episodes of Paper Girls. Really enjoyable stuff. Really digging this, and fingers crossed it gets at least another season or 2. That would be great. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media, and I should be back tomorrow with the final 2 episodes of season 1. Thanks guys, see you later.